Plan Commission meeting of Tuesday, December 9th, 2014. Roll call.
Dickman here.
Johnston here.
Carrillo here.
David here.
Streety here,
Guzekowski here. Corral here.
Seifert here.
and Commissioner Chandler is excused. Item 2 is minutes of the November 25th, 2014 meeting.
Dickman makes a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 25th, 2014 meeting.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
David abstains.
Streety, aye.
Guzekowski, aye. Corral abstains.
Seifert, aye.
Item 3 is significant common council actions. Carrie?
Council, can you hear me?
Yep.
Council approved a resolution vacating and discontinuing a part of a public street in the city of Oak Creek, which is the part of the 6th Street in the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of section 17522. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving to item 4, it's 2 sign appeal hearings. Item 4A is a sign appeal hearing for the property at 7241 South 13th Street, submitted by Mark Graham's B&G Realty that would allow the applicant to erect an 11-foot tall ground sign and install 9 wall signs. Tax key number is listed. Pete Wagner will read the public hearing notice.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I read, I just want to let you know the public notice hearing in your packet was an older one, and that I'm reading the one that was published in the paper. It's a change in address and zoning, so nothing major, so nothing to be concerned about if you're following along.
Is the address on the agenda correct?
Yes. This is a City of Oak Creek notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held on Tuesday, December 9th, 2014, 6 p.m. Oak Creek City Hall, Common Council Chambers, 8640 South Howell Avenue, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. Appellant is Scott Starks, Marcus South Shore Cinema. Tax key number 763-9018. Property location 7241 South 13th Street. This is a request for multiple variances are requested. The first variance requested is from section 170706 sub D, which states ground signs shall not exceed 8 feet in height and shall not exceed 100 square feet on any one side, no more than 200 feet on all sides for any premises. The second variance requested is from section 170706 sub J sub 2, which states only individual tenants with their own entrance shall be permitted one wall sign. Individual tenants in buildings with internal entrances only shall not be permitted a wall sign. If granted, this variance would allow the applicant to erect an 11-foot tall ground sign and install 9 wall signs at 7241 South 13th Street. Zoning of the property is B4 PUD. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated the 19th day of November 2014, Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Stephen Scafidi, Chairman. This is a public hearing, and anyone who wishes to make a comment regarding the subject of this hearing to please step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and proceed to address the commission with your comments. This public hearing is now open.
I'll make 3 calls for public comment. First call. Second call. Third and final call. Seeing no one stepping forward to comment, we will close that. 4A, do you want to do both of them right away?
Yeah, that'd be great if we can just have the two 4A and
Okay.
5A put together.
And 4B is also a sign appeal hearing for a proposed sign for the property at 8469 South Howell Avenue, submitted by Carlo Padone, Trattoria di Carlo and Catering, that would allow the applicant to erect a second wall sign, tax key number as listed. Pete?
Sure. Public notice hearing, City of Oak Creek, notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held Tuesday, December 9th, 2014 at 6 p.m. at the Oak Creek City Hall, Common Council Chambers, 8640 South Howell Avenue, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. The appellant is Carlo Padone, Trattoria, I can pronounce that right, even if I didn't, DiCarlo. Tax key number 828-9029. Property located at 8469 South Howell Avenue, to request a variance from section 170706 sub I-1, which states that single and 2 tenant retail buildings shall be permitted 1 wall sign per tenant per street frontage. Single and 2 tenant buildings may also provide 1 ground sign per street frontage. In lieu of ground signs, businesses in the B4 Highway Business District may have 1 pole sign. If granted, this variance would allow the applicant to erect a second wall sign at 8469 South Howell Avenue. Zoning of the property is B2, B3. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated the 13th day of November, 2014. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Stephen Scafidi, Chairman. This is a public hearing, And that anyone who wishes to make a comment regarding the subject of the hearing, to please step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and proceed to address the commission with your comments. This public hearing is now open.
Make 3 calls, just like the last one. First call. Second call. Third and final call for public comment on the sign appeal hearing, item 4B. Seeing none, we will move to new business, close the public hearing, move to new business. Item 5A is a sign appeal request for the property. Do you have a comment?
No, I'm for 5A.
Okay. You're the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. So 5A is a sign appeal request for the property at 7241 South 13th Street, submitted by Mark Graham's B&G Realty, that would allow the applicant to erect an 11-foot tall ground sign and install 9 wall signs, tax key number as listed. Applicant is here. Pete?
Sure, I'll take it. On the screen before you is the existing monument sign, and in your packet, they show the, thank you, Carrie. On the right, you can disregard the pole sign. The pole sign is part of the PUD package, which is not part of the sign appeal this evening. This was in discussions with the applicant regarding all the signs. So I just wanted to show you what's existing out there right now as it regards to the monument sign, which is 23.5 feet tall. And they wanted to put a new ground sign, which would only be 11 feet tall. Secondly, they want to install monument signs, or wall signs, I should say, on the west, east, and north elevations. It might be tough to see. Carrie, I don't know if you can blow it up. Anyway, there we go. At the entrance right there, currently there are 3 cinema signs on the east, west, and north facing. They're proposing to just have it on the north side, the Marcus Cinema. And then on the east elevation, or west elevation there, you can see that they have 1, 2, 3, 4. They have signs for the internal businesses, which was one of the variances, asking for wall signs for businesses that don't have their separate entrances. And then they will have a sign on the east elevation. That's all I have. If the applicant wished to address the commission with what you have. And what's interesting in your packet and what we have up there are 2 different things, because that's supposed to be Dream Lounger, correct, and not South Shore
Yeah,
Cinema.
it looks like you've got an earlier version of it than
Yeah.
the last one that was submitted.
In the Plan Commission's packet is the correct graphic, where you actually have Dream Lounger instead of South Shore Cinema on the east elevation, and you have signs for Take 5 and Zaffiro's Pizza on the east elevation, and then on the west elevation, you have the Take 2 and the Zaffiro's wall signs along with the Dream Lounger. And then on the north elevation, there's also signs for the 2 internal restaurants. So with that, I will hand it over to the applicant if you want to expand on what you're looking to do.
Actually, we had a quick question based on our discussion earlier, late last week. You had asked me if the Take 5 signs on the 3 sides of the building were internally illuminated or whether they are signs with the gooseneck lights. We were wondering the basis for that concern. Is there a one works, one doesn't? Why is internally illuminated not acceptable, but the exterior is? Just for clarification.
Before you answer, Pete, can you just give your name and address
Oh.
for the record?
Yes, David Baum with Schrader and Holt Architects, 311 East Chicago, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Thanks.
Sure.
It states in our code for multi-tenant businesses, buildings have more than one tenant, that in the B4 district, that internally illuminated box signs are not permitted. It's explicitly stated in the code.
Okay.
And that's why I was asking clarification, just to make sure that they were, signs that were not cabinets with internal illumination.
If we wanted to go internally illuminated, you just can't have them.
It's not permitted.
Okay, then we're fine. They just wanted me to clarify why, and so I can get back to them.
Alderman Bekavich?
I guess I'll chime in first, and part of my question was answered. The 25-foot pole sign is kind of outdated and gone, and you're going with the 11-foot monument.
Right.
So I would imagine on that screen, you're going to scroll movie times, all
The changeable letterboard is outdated technology. We
Right.
would use that. We might flash up there a special. If the Take 5 is having a pizza special this week, you may see on there the $5 Tuesday sign. So there would be with the ability to change that text they'd probably use it for a variety of things.
I
But
guess-
mainly it would be the auditoriums.
Okay, I guess I'll just take it one at a time. As far as the swap out goes on the 25-foot pole sign to the 11-foot monument sign, I'm actually okay with that. That's a reduction. I actually think it's an improvement, given what's going to happen in that area. Sooner or later, that stretch of road will be redone. This is a modernization of it. Regarding the extra wall signs, I'll take the north elevation first. And once again, it is a movie theater. They're in the business of promoting what's out there. I take it those signs on the walls that you're looking to put in are probably like theater bills? Or are they actually gonna
Again,
be-
that's the wrong elevation.
Are you talking about those, Dan?
We're on the north, yeah, those.
Yeah, again, that's the wrong elevation. That's the earlier one submitted. We submitted a later one with those images are gone, those
Right.
those three.
I have that one where
Okay.
there's just two in the Sephiros and the.
Yes.
and-
So the Zafiro sign, the Take 5 sign, the Dream Lounger sign are all amenities that are within the building now, and we want to advertise that to
Okay.
the public.
And again, I'll take it from the north elevation, if you're familiar with that lot, the setback's rather far from 13th Street or Highway V. You have to come and physically park in that north lot to really see those signs. So really, it's an advertisement to those patrons that are using it. The east side, honestly, the only time I've ever been to the east side is when I pass it on the expressway.
Right.
That is it. I don't have any heartburn with that. And given the west side and what the setbacks are, I think it does enhance the building somewhat. Is the Dream Lounger sign gonna be illuminated?
Yes.
It will be. So, all in all, overall, given the improvements going into the building and given what the area is, and that is the oldest theater in the Marcus chain, I believe, ain't it? Close to it?
Yes, that is actually the first multiplex they built ground up.
Yeah. I'm okay with it unless you guys wanna completely rebuild a megaplex for us.
The retrofitting that we've been doing over the years has always kept that up to date. But clarification, I want to make sure that that Dream Lounger sign is an internally illuminated box letter. That one's okay?
Yeah, what you're proposing are channel-based letters. They're not a cabinet.
No.
No, that's what, the box sign is what is not permitted. Those are considered channel letters, which
Yes.
are permitted. That could be, yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Then we're good.
So given what I see, I don't have a lot of heartburn with these two variances.
Okay.
Commissioner Dickman?
I kind of agree with Dan. First of all, on the monument sign, I think it's a great improvement. It's and way smaller in size, which should make us happy. We're not looking for bigger signs, but smaller signs. But I'm more not concerned with. But I want to talk about the west elevation. Okay, there's not much parking back there. It's a very small area, and if I get it right, you're taking the big South Shore Cinema sign off of there. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And now you're replacing it with the Dream Lounger and the two smaller signs. But when I look at them, and I actually drove on the freeway, and you could actually see that South Shore Cinema sign very clearly, even when you're going fast. But these signs you're adding on the west side, they aren't going to buy you nothing because you can't even read them when you go past on the freeway. You're driving, even though you're driving fast, or even if you're coming off, and that adds a lot of numbers to the sign. So I think the rest of the signs are okay, but I'm just not as shall we say, happy with the signs on the west side.
I believe what will happen over time is the logo and the identity will start to become more prevalent, and people will see the image more so than try and read the text. So over time, it'll become more identifiable.
Okay, I don't agree with that, but that's my philosophy.
Okay, Commissioner Carrillo?
I know this is confusing because they don't match, but the north elevation, the front of the building,
Yes.
you have 6 panels, 3 on each side, flanking the door. And we talked about how you were going to put images, and then you chose not to, but our
Correct.
drawings still have squares on them.
There's if I can approach that? Okay.
You got a laser?
Here, we'll give you a pointer.
That'll be good. Okay, now I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
Yep.
This box here
Go on.
Is that the box you're talking about, or are you talking about the smaller one inside?
I'm talking about where you're pointing
The bigger
three
box?
and then three, right?
Okay. The bigger boxes are textured block. The whole building is a split-face block, but those frames, if you will, are a smooth-face block. So there is a textural difference, and we're just painting that texture a different color.
Okay, because on our drawings, it definitely looks like it's maybe a promotional,
No.
Okay.
No, they should all look like this now.
right?
Nothing inside of it anymore.
That's kind of what we talked about last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you painting the signs in there, in those squares or rectangles?
Which ones? These?
The ones you pointing to, the one you're pointing to.
That there is not going to be on this building anymore.
It's going to be what's on the bottom.
They're all going to look like this.
Okay.
A square frame with an infield of block, and that's a different texture between split face. The beige will be split face. The dark tone will be smooth face.
Commissioner Siebert.
The question I have, are you having 3 separate entrances to this building, or is there just one main entrance?
We have one main entrance, and we are required to have multiple main exits.
Exits, okay.
Yes.
So they're not
No, you can only get in the front door.
through the front door?
Right. That door there is an old handicap accessible power operated door. So you can get in there to our box office, but this is the only main entrance.
Okay.
Other questions?
Steve, what do you feel about it?
I don't have a problem with it. I think you're so isolated out towards the freeway that, you know, you could almost do anything over there and it wouldn't necessarily raise anybody's hackles.
Right.
Do you have nothing on the south side?
No, there's a tree line back there, and most everything would be obscured on that wall anyway. So
Yeah, I don't have any, as Dan said, any heartburn over it. I think it's, you know, you got to promote your business and you're so far set back from the roadway that I think it's,
right.
you got to do whatever you can. And I think, as I agree with Dan, the monument sign is a tremendous improvement.
Thank you.
As 13th Street gets redeveloped and eventually retroed into a more modern road, I think it's going to be, those kind of signs are going to be valuable to have. Commissioner Johnston?
Just along those lines, just work with Milwaukee County and where you place that sign, so it's far enough back, they don't have to tear it out when they do expand the road.
Actually, this is the existing structure has a single monopole. We're building right on top of that monopole. It's in the exact same location.
Okay. And second thought, I kind of agree with Wally, the ones along the freeway, you're not gonna notice them along the freeway. I don't know if it has any impact on it or not. You're not gonna see them.
Let me just,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, let me talk a little more. It's not so much that the signs, you can't see them, but, you know, we're increasing the number of signs.
Right.
And every time we do, then somebody else, you know, comes up and says, well, you allowed, you know, so-and-so to increase their number of signs. And, you know, it's just like a rolling ball. It kind of just keeps going on and on. That's my only concern, really, besides the size of the signs.
Commissioner Bakavich?
I kind of stated I've never really been to the west side other than the expressway because we tend to park as close as possible on the north side.
Should start parking farther away and walking a little bit
Oh,
more.
believe me, we have those discussions. But anyhow, is there parking on that side? Is that the? reason
Yes,
for the
there is
sign?
a single access row. There's probably like 20 cars over on that side.
Yeah, it's
They
very
actually point to the freeway.
Yeah, Dan, it's very limited there.
Yeah.
You know, it's very limited.
It's
Okay.
it's actually for the purpose of fire department access. We're required to have a road around the building for a non-combustible construction.
So the purpose is just for that slight advertisement if somebody parks on that road as they walk around and.
Yep.
and
Well, no, it's actually
keep the
to
Building uniform.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the number of signs may increase, but the quantity of signage has decreased. So.
Okay.
That makes sense, everybody?
Well, did decide.
All right, if somebody wants to make a motion based on that discussion?
Okay, Bukevich will make a motion to approve a sign request appeal for the property at 7241 South 13th Street. that would allow the applicant to erect an 11-foot tall ground sign and install 9 wall signs. I think I covered that. Pete, anything I gotta add to that?
No, you have all the right pieces in there.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Corral seconds.
Corral seconds, roll call.
Dickman, no.
Johnston, no.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Scafidi, aye.
Guzekowski, aye. Corral, aye.
Seifert, no.
5-3. Is that right?
One.
Yep. 5-3.
We didn't need like a 3/4 majority or anything, do we? Okay.
No.
All right, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck. All right, moving to 5B, it's a sign appeal request for the property at 8469 South Howell Avenue, submitted by Carla Padone for the property known as DeCarlo's Restaurant, famous in Oak Creek, that would allow the applicant to erect a second wall sign, tax key number as listed. The owner and applicant is here. Welcome.
Thank you. Carlo Pedoni, 109 Superior Court.
All right, as stated earlier in the public hearing, the variance requested to allow the applicant to construct a second wall sign on the east elevation of his business at 8469 South Howell Avenue. Included in your packet is a black and white rendering, it looks like, depicting what the sign would look like. It does meet the sign code and other, and the other regulations regarding it. And at this point, staff does not make recommendations regarding sign appeals, and that when considering a variance, you should look at the criteria as listed in your report A through E. Mr. Mayor.
All right, Alderman Bekavich.
Would this be illuminated?
Correct.
We just had discussion with the last guy. By letters, or would it have a ground sign or a
No, it's individual letters illuminated.
individual? Okay.
LED.
Okay. I will say this, your establishment's been there a long time. I know the history of the place, and you added on to it, and you built onto it. It always did seem a little bit unfinished, quite frankly. I mean, I think the sign kind of helps address that. No offense to the business, it's just, I actually think it's kind of needed going forward. I know you have the smaller monument sign.
Split in half.
Yeah. So, again, based on a little bit I see right here, I'm okay with it. It's your
Thank you.
night for signs.
Commissioner Dickman?
I kind of agree with Dan. You remember a couple of years ago, they were here and they wanted to make another monument sign, and we turned it down, okay? And I do agree that I think having this wall sign does help it. It would kind of balance the building a little bit. So I'm all for it.
So looking at the thing you showed before, is it basically the script of the name of the restaurant?
Yes, with the added bar and restaurant.
Restaurant and bar.
Yeah, I think that's a very nice, it would be a very nice addition to the front of the restaurant. Actually, as well-known as you are, you can drive by your restaurant.
You can easily
Miss it.
drive right by it, not even
Good
knowing
thing
it.
you have good food, because
right.
they got to stop there.
This is mob.
It's all about the meatballs.
We should put a big meatball on there.
Commissioner Johnston?
Where on the front of the building is this going to be located?
It's red.
Harry's trying to bring up the whole building. Unfortunately, in the packet, they only provided the narrow band, so hopefully,
It's like the
If you show the other picture you sent, I could probably easily.
Got a little big view of where it's located.
Yeah, if you
like
start
the
from
north
the
of the building.
Midwest and zero
Sorry?
in on DeCarlo.
north end of the
we want to give you the
It's on-
scope
it's-
from
It's
the,
on the. It's facing east.
east, but on the north end of the building.
On the north end. Well,
North.
yeah, it's right on. It's in between. It's like 3/4
Okay.
on the north end of the building. You see where the black sign is, where the big black sign. I mean, the awning is to the big space to the right, right where the arrow is, right there.
Yeah.
That's a big wall space with the decorative concrete wall.
It's unrelated to this, but you did a nice job with your addition and your landscaping as well.
Awesome. Thank
Your
you.
flowers are incredible.
Yeah, we worked hard on our flowers this summer, so it was awesome.
Look good.
Thank you.
All right, you got it?
Yep. Thanks.
You can tell I go to DeCarlo's a lot. Are we waiting for you to pull something up?
We were just trying to get the street view so you could get the whole facade of the building,
And
unfortunately.
apologize, we didn't provide one, sorry.
Any other discussion? Anybody have any heartburn, as Dan says?
Can I make a motion?
All right, make a motion.
Dickman makes a motion that we approve a variance which will allow the applicant to erect a second wall sign on the east elevation of the building located at 8469 South Howell Avenue.
Kavich seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye. Kroll, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a good evening.
You too. 5C is a condition and restrictions for a gasoline service station submitted by Lay Berlin for Quick Trip Inc., located at 7880 South 10th Street. Tax key number as listed.
This conditional use, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. This conditional use request was recommended for approval at the November 25th Plan Commission meeting at the property highlighted on the screen. Site building landscaping are going to come back to the Plan Commission following council approval, which has been scheduled for a hearing. Following this process, it'll be in January at some point. If you go to your packet and you look at a couple of highlighted areas for the conditions and restrictions, just to draw your attention. Actually, it's on the last page, so if you go to page 6,
6, yeah.
permitted uses under 10, all permitted uses in the M1 manufacturing district, which would include one gasoline service station with diesel pumps and compressed natural gas. And the outdoor storage and display of retail merchandise is limited to ice machines along the service area of the building and a propane tank cage along the front or side of the building. This is the recommendation for the Plan Commission to consider. You'll recall that there were several areas for outdoor storage requested. Also, want to draw your attention to 11, which is time of compliance. This is the standard language that's in our code, which requires work to commence within 12 months of the date of adoption of the CUP, and that the conditional use would expire within 12 months after the date of adoption if a building permit had not been issued. This is also up for the Plan Commission's discussion. These are the only areas that are not just standard, well, they are standard code requirements, but they're the only ones that I really wanted to draw your attention to. Everything else is pretty much standard as conditional uses go. So the staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for a gasoline service station located at 7880 South 10th Street after a public hearing. Mr. Mayor.
All right, open it up to commission comments or questions. Alderman Bekavich.
Regarding permitted uses in C, and I was not here for the last meeting, on outdoor storage and display, ice machines are pretty standard and a propane cage. Does that mean they can't have winter salt as other service stations do and things like that? Or what happens with that type of stuff? Because I guess some businesses have it, some businesses don't.
And it's on a case-by-case basis whether or not that outdoor storage area for those gas stations are approved. The staff recommendation is that the salt not be included in the approved outdoor storage areas, but that's up for Plan Commission consideration. The concern from staff's end is that if it's not, if it's not specifically stated what is allowed, that you could end up with an instance where you have additional outdoor storage areas that pop up on the site, and that could lead to issues. We did have one gas station that started to sell mulch along the peripheral of the property, so that's what this is intended to prevent. It's up for the Plan Commission to determine whether or not they want to include additional outdoor storage areas.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Dickman.
I thought, Kerry, didn't we have a discussion last, when this first came up, the Quick Trip, which is located on South 13th Street, what do they have outside? That's way on the other end of town from me, and I'm not aware of what's going on there. Do you know?
I have not been out there, so I haven't been able to verify what's out there. I think they do have some exterior display. It wasn't specified in their conditional use, however, what the outdoor display areas were that would have been approved, so that's kind of a gray area.
Okay. Pete, do you know at all?
Testing. I was out there recently filling up my car, and they do have salt out there. And when reviewing this Quick Trip application, we reviewed theirs to see if it was specified, and
Yeah.
in their conditions and restrictions, we did not specifically state that. And as Carrie mentioned earlier, we had an issue where we had a gas station to have mulch line the whole perimeter, and it was at such a, it actually created a safety issue getting in and out of the gas station.
Not
So
controlled, yeah.
we do have businesses that have outdoor storage. The way the code reads, if a new gas station were to come in town, that should not be permitted unless expressly stated in the conditions and restrictions. So a lot of the other older gas stations have basically conforming conditional use.
Should I keep going? How about the one which is now being built as part of Drexel Town Plaza? What have we specified there?
Carrie, do you want to?
For the Myers station, it was specified that there would be outdoor storage with the ice machine and with the propane tanks. I don't recall that there were any other outdoor storage areas
Okay.
or outdoor display of merchandise areas approved for that. But that's a different zoning there as well. That's a PUD zoning. This is straight manufacturing.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I think it might actually be part of the manufacturing PUD up there, but it has a different set of review criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Do you make any distinction between the storage of propane, which is year-round, and what was the other one?
Ice?
Ice, typically year-round uses, right?
Yep.
And then salt is limited to essentially the late fall, winter.
Well, that could change from salt during the winter to soda to windshield wiper fluid, something else.
Well, I mean, you're
Unless it's
specifically
specified.
mentioning salt, so we're talking about salt.
Right, but if it's underneath a gas station canopy, underneath a fueling canopy, or at the ends, as I think it was presented here, what's the difference between having salt there and having a different?
Well, I mean, we could go round and round, because I know that if you go to gas stations around the city, you'll find soda on, 2-liter bottles of
Right.
soda on display, you'll see firewood on display.
Right.
So I guess it's a matter of how tight you want to try to rein this in.
Right, and that's why staff decided to recommend just the ice and the propane and leave the rest to the Plan Commission if you want to add any additional approvals for the outdoor storage, as was mentioned. And I will say that what they requested were the ice machines, the propane cage, firewood in front of the store, and water softener salt at the end of the canopies. So those were the specific outdoor displays that they were requesting. You'll recall that they did remove the red box request because those are not allowed outside.
You said the water softener blocks at the edge of the canopies?
At the end of the canopies. So not necessarily in between the fueling pumps, but at the ends.
Oh,
So not even close to the building itself?
No.
You know that.
Commissioner Sieber.
The one thing I'm concerned about is the firewood. I think that just doesn't seem to fit that gas station type scenario. I know they use it and you have it, but to me, if you stack it up and so forth, that's a question I have. The other question I have is about lighting too, because you're right next to a residential area across the street, of what type of lighting they'll actually have as compared to what they have right next to the expressway.
Well, they'll have to meet the lighting requirements that are in the code, just like any other gas station in the city.
Commissioner Johnson?
I just want to say I'm okay with the staff recommendation of leaving it at just the propane and ice at the site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commissioner Crowell?
I guess I'm okay with it. I don't understand how we have a Quick Trip on 13th, a Quick Trip going on 10th. They run an ice operation on 13th. It's clean, organized. Now we're gonna run it differently on 10th, what they can do, and how in the world are we gonna police that anyway?
I'll take a stab at that. As the code enforcement officer for enforcing conditional use permits, in the past, and even the recent past, we've been very open-ended. And so in this particular case, we've tried to tighten up the conditional use permits. So when someone down the road, say there's another product that works great for quick sales at a gas station, it doesn't pop up. You know, right now it's firewood, propane, road salt. You know,
But
those
it
are
can
the
pop up
main
that are
ones.
existing? I mean, the old gas stations in town, those things can pop up.
They do.
Right.
You know, and this is more in response to when the mulch came out. Not really related to a fueling station. You know, firewood, that's, I guess, a type of fuel. Propane, type of fuel. Okay, we can see that as accessory. When you go to mulch and now becoming a landscape lot, now it's a problem. If we don't specify what the type of outdoor display that can be done, it ties my hands every time because, well, why can I put out, you know, whatever merchandise, and you know they're very creative. You know they're a convenience store, and not just Quick Trip, but all the gas stations. So they can pretty much merchandise pretty much anything outdoors, and that's why staff is recommending to move forward with tightening up, and that's why we also, as Carrie mentioned, it's a discretion of the Plan Commission. If you think those two is too limiting, you know, please encourage some sort of language that provides some sort of clarity to the property owner, the business owner, as to what they can and cannot do, and not where I have to say, and be the arbiter of what is going to be.
What about a distinction between what is stored up at the building versus out at the, to me, keeping the gas areas clean, the pump areas clean is more important than necessarily what they're, I have a lot of confidence in Quick Trip that they're gonna, because seeing what they've done on Ryan, that the store part of it is gonna be well maintained. Now, it doesn't mean I wanna see an entire storefront full of outdoor displays, but I'm pretty confident they can handle it. But out at the pump is a different thing because people that aren't going there for gas are still gonna have to see all that crap. And I don't think you know, this does have a special attention to me or interest in me because that is gonna be our access to our downtown area. So we are gonna be very tight on what that looks like, that approach in and out of there. So to me, tightening it up and deferring to staff on what they think is appropriate and to the code enforcement guru is also important. I think we need to have discretion lie there. But I'm certainly okay with the propane, ice. Those are common uses for gas stations. I think that's more than appropriate. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, Mayor, members of the commission, my name is Troy Malezova, real estate manager with Quick Trip. Just a quick point.
Address?
Sure, 1626 Oak Street, La Crosse, Wisconsin. The logic that we have for our items outside, what we try to do is place on the actual site plan the locations for that outdoor display so that we're limited to those particular areas. What we have is firewood, things that can't go in the store. Firewood, we have the softener salt up by the canopy just because they're larger bags. People don't want to carry a 50-pound bag of salt from a store back to their car. That's why we have it out there. And then also propane you can't put in the store. So
Right.
What we've done in the past in other communities is designate specific locations for that outdoor display. And those are the items that we carry. We don't carry mulch. We don't carry windshield fluid, which some smaller buildings do. We've got those in the store. So,
Okay. Alderman Bekavich.
Just to clarify, as far as the ice goes and the propane, I'm fine with that. If we had restrictions written on salt and firewood at the canopies. Again, he just kind of gave the reasons for that. I'm actually okay with those. I understand the perimeter, and I know where you're talking about where they did that. That would be inappropriate there. I cross there every single day. But again, if you confine it to the canopies, and again, we don't have the plan how this is going to lay out, but you wouldn't be along either Drexel Avenue or 10th Street with that. It would be set back in. I would be okay with that as long as we had, it was either Carrie or Pete, I'm sorry, one of you read that somebody had restrictions that it had to be confined to the end of the canopies. And I think that's a similar practice at most service stations, so. That's it for my 2 cents. Otherwise, you know, I'd be fine as long as we put that language in, and those would be the 2 items. And again, as Pat said, I think it would be easier management on the business when you have 2 businesses 3 miles apart and you're shipping this stuff in. You know, you can manage a little more effectively that way. And again, it's convenience to the consumer too, not having to drive to another location when you're getting gas.
So are you saying you're okay with storage at the pumps?
I'm okay at the end of the canopies. It takes place at some service stations within the city now, as long as It's confined to the end of the canopies. You can only store so much there anyways. You get the clearance around them pumps. So,
Mayor, when he's talking into canopies, are those the designated areas that we have?
when I'm talking about the end of the canopies, I'm taking the end of the
island.
pumps,
Correct.
right? Is that? am I
Are those the
correct in my
designated areas that they've specified, that he referred to?
Yeah, correct. Where we typically would have the salt would be out near the cars where people can load those bags in.
Okay.
We'd have site-specific plans cited on the site plan where that would be, and then we'd have one up by the store for the firewood.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I'm okay with both of those.
Mike, you have a comment? Firewood, I bet it's firewood. No?
Regarding storage of materials around the fire pumps, now that would have some regulation by the state of Wisconsin. They do the licensing and certification of the pumps, so they would also have some general regulations of what can go into those canopies. I guess I would exercise some caution with the placement of items there. I certainly don't want to issue a blanket statement saying yay or nay on that, but I would exercise caution that when you clutter certain areas, it could become hazardous.
Commissioner Dickman?
As you look to the future, and I'm kind of looking way out, there's always new products or new things coming out. And if we limited them now to just these two, and Quick Trip came up with something that said, hey, this is really important to the drivers, there's new types of cars coming out, et cetera, how could we handle that, Pete, in the future? Could they come back to us to ask for that as a special item, or how do we handle it?
Yes, you definitely would amend the conditions and restrictions to add, a more specific or general addition to what is currently being proposed for these conditions and restrictions.
Okay, I just want them to be aware of it, that, that if something came up, there's so many things coming out on the market now, and sometimes with the new cars, electric cars, et cetera, there might be something that, is very important to the future.
Alderman Guzikowski.
Can I just ask real quick, on the Myers gas station, I know it's a little different, you said the zoning portion of it, but what, just out of curiosity, what will they be having outside? Do they have any of the same characteristics?
Propane and ice.
Propane, okay. Thank you.
I said it before, I think we should definitely restrict what's out at the pumps, even more so now after hearing what Mr. Kresick said. Totally okay with propane and ice. I think those are year-round uses. The rest of the stuff, I think they could come before us and ask for special,
Yeah.
if there was such a product that came forward, and at that time, then we would review it. And they could do that at any time, correct? I think that would be more in line with what I would like to see. That being said, any other questions or comments? Then I'll need a motion on 5C.
Somebody.
Before somebody makes a motion, I would just like to ask for whether the Plan Commission is comfortable with the 12-month limitation, or if you wanted to increase that at all. I believe Quick Trip's plans are to move forward as quickly as possible with this, but in case there are any issues with weather or materials or anything like that, do you want to extend the time frame?
Are they comfortable
Does
with
the
it?
applicant have issues?
We're fine.
When are they going to be, when do you want to be in by?
Assuming we have a normal winter, we'd like to start sometime in the spring. Probably it's late, we could start as late as June, but our plan is to start next year.
Typical construction time for a station from start to finish?
From start to finish is about 4 months from ground breaking to grand opening.
Wow,
Wow.
quick. It's a good spot. Okay, so what's the motion going to look like? And reading what the staff has recommended. Unless there's a majority that thinks otherwise.
I'll put it out there as the staff recommend it going forward. If Quick Trip really wants to use those products, I would encourage them to come back and ask for those conditional uses to have those extra 2 products of salt and wood. I would support it. You know what? I'll put it out there with salt and wood in it. How's that?
Okay, if you put a motion, if he puts a
Yeah.
motion that has salt and wood and it fails, is that the end of the
No,
discussion?
You can come back around with it out, right? You can make a second one.
That'd be that motion would fail if it didn't get,
So he could make a, if that happened and it failed, someone could make a motion to put forward
Right.
with basically the staff recommendations.
yeah, you could do that,
Okay.
certainly. But if you're going to amend the outdoor storage areas, I would ask that you be very specific so that we can get the language correct.
Ooh, pressure. Okay. Kavich will make a motion that the Plan Commission recommend to the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for a gasoline station located at 7880 South 10th after a public hearing, subject to the conditions that
There are no
the
conditions.
products of propane, ice are allowed as an outside sale, and also that softener salt and wood is allowed if permitted by the state at the end of the canopies.
So wood and salt at the canopy, or wood at the front of the building where they requested and salt at the canopy?
Wood at the front of the building, salt at the canopies. I will stand amended,
Corral second.
as allowed by the state.
All right, Alderman Bekavich made the motion, Corral second, roll call.
Dickman, no.
Johnston, no.
Carrillo, no.
Gavich, aye.
Scafidi, no.
Guzekowski, no.
Seifert, no.
Okay, motion fails 6-2. So I'm pretty sure Quick Trip would like to see a motion flipped on its face there. Someone like to make that motion?
Go, Wally, go.
Now it's my turn?
It is.
How do I always
Senior
get in
senior
this?
leadership now is,
Okay, Dick will make a motion that we recommend Common Council approval of conditional use permit for the gas station, and I should say the conditional uses as outlined in the conditions and restrictions presented to us tonight, which specifically states for storage, it shall be limited to the ice machines and propane tank cage along the front of the building.
Johnston seconds.
roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Scafidi, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
All right. Hope you can work with that.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right, moving on to 5D. It's a request, temporary use permit request submitted by Wispark LLC for temporary crushing at the property at 8850 South Fifth Avenue, tax key number as listed. Pete or Carrie, whoever's taking that one.
I'll take this one. This is for temporary crushing of footing and slabs from the former buildings on the site that's highlighted on the screen right now. What I'm going to show you right now is a site plan. It's a little bit washed out, so bear with me as I talk about this. So these are some of the former building areas that we're talking about with removing the footing and slabs, and there's also going to be a stockpile in this location here. So that would be an approximate 300 by 300, no taller than 16 feet stockpile area. The site will actually be graded and stabilized with seeding and mulching following the work that's done there. All activities will be located outside of the wetland boundaries, which actually do not appear on this site plan, but there have been some wetlands identified in the area. No lighting or signage is proposed with this temporary use request. No materials for crushing will be brought to the site from other projects. This is specifically limited to crushing the materials that are presently on site. Hauling off-site will not actually be done by the applicant's representative, which is A.W. Oaks & Son. The proposed hours of operation are between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. We did receive some comments from a neighbor who wishes to remain anonymous. Some of the concerns that were raised were that there would be noise and vibration from the crushing operation, also dust associated with the crushing and storage of the product. There was a concern that allowing crushing might potentially delay the redevelopment of the northern lakefront, and also concerns about existing gypsum, including hours of operation, noise, and truck traffic. They asked that I share those comments with the Plan Commission. They were also provided to the owner, which is Wispark. And Jerry Franke, who is representative of Wispark, did respond to those, saying that the crushing operations will not delay the lakefront redevelopment. It has been done before any redevelopment can occur. It has to be done before any redevelopment can occur on the property. So getting it done now will possibly expedite it. Not doing it now will delay it. It's only expected to last throughout the winter when it will be least disruptive to the neighbor. Regarding gypsum operation, they have been directed to put all materials inside and should be close to completing that. AW Oaks is not involved in that operation and will not be authorized to discuss it. So those were the comments that were received from WISPARK. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the temporary use permit for the temporary concrete crushing operation on the property located at 8850 South Fifth Avenue, subject to conditions 1 through 4. Mr. Mayor.
So reading the staff report, this is something that's going to commence fairly soon if approved, completed by July 1st, 2015. That's officially when the temporary use would expire?
Yeah.
Yes? If I hear, go ahead.
That's the recommendation, that to allow for a little bit extra time since they wanted to be done. I think they said their timeline was spring. We thought July 1st seemed reasonable.
Having spent a lot of time out there in the last week, it's pretty obvious this concrete has to be crushed in order for the rest of it to happen. Any alternative would be to haul it, bust it up and haul it somewhere else and crush it, which I think would create even more havoc and traffic and dust and everything else that's associated with hauling big pieces of concrete. To me, this seems like a logical, keeping it on site. I imagine some of the material would actually be used on site, correct? Road base, things like that? It seems like an economical and efficient way to do this. I totally get what the residents are saying, because anybody that's lived along Fifth Avenue has put up with a lot in the last couple of years. Anybody that hasn't been out there, there's lots of truck traffic related not only just to that gypsum that we were just talking about, but all the dirt that we reclaimed from the interstate project that capped the southern edge of the property. So, I mean, they've put up with a lot, so I think we really, really need to be sensitive about the hours of operation. And frankly, maybe 7 a.m. is too early, but certainly something that can be discussed. I think 5 p.m. is a reasonable cutoff. People get home from work. Their expectation is that this is not going to be going on while they're eating dinner and watching TV or whatever. So it seems like a reasonable request, but I'll open it up to the commission for comments. Alderman Bukavich.
Well, we'll start, Carrie, maybe you said this. Where are they going to do the crushing? Where are they going to set the portable crusher up on site? Do you guys have a site pinpointed?
Applicant is here.
Name and address for the record.
I'm Kevin Hokinson. I represent AW Oaks & Sons, 2000 Oaks Road, Racine. Thank you. The crushing plant, the portable crushing plant, would be set up right here near the stockpile along this last footing that we tear out. Okay. And then the conveyors would stockpile the material right here in the designated area.
So we're, I just estimate, 100 feet, 200 feet off Fifth Avenue?
Off of what?
Off of the road.
Oh, we're probably about 500 to 700 feet off the road.
Oh, we are that far.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you estimate the majority of the product will stay on site? Will any of it be sold and shipped out?
We've only been contracted to remove the footings that the prior contractors left in the ground and crush the material for the owner. We don't have any control over what happens to the material from that point on.
Okay, do we have any indication from WISPARK if they're going to try to resell this, or are they just going to use it as Brian kind of indicated?
Yeah, they've indicated, well, at least Jerry Franke from WISPARK has indicated that they intend to use a lot of it on the site.
Because, I mean, trucking, there'd be trucking to truck it off, and whether it's crushed or uncrushed, I agree with the mayor. This really does seem like a logical way to go with this. And it's necessary. This cannot proceed until that concrete is gone and crushed. So that is really about it. As far as the hours of operations go, a 7 a.m. start, I know that seems kind of early to the neighbors, but really, quite frankly, most contractors work within this span of time. And again, a lot of this has to do with daylight to quickly get it done. If they go to longer hours by having the 5 o'clock hours, they can work an extra couple hours come spring when they get more daylight and the noise sooner, so to speak. So, okay, thank
Do you see any issues, given what's happened out there in the last week with security out there with this kind of operation?
No.
No. Is that gate open or closed on the weekend?
Well, the company that's handling the gypsum is responsible for that gate. We're also going to take partnership in that to make sure it's closed after hours.
Okay. Commissioner Seifert?
I'm concerned about the dust. How are you going to control that?
We're required from the DNR and the EPA to control our own dust. It's called particulate observation. And several of us, including myself, get certified every 6 months, and we have to turn in forms with emissions reports, which we're allowed very little. And we use dust, and when it's in the winter, when we get snow, we incorporate the snow in with the crushing to suppress the dust. We have very little escapes our plant. It's shrouded. We have jacketing systems. We have spray systems. We monitor it quite close.
Okay.
And if I remember right, this is where that gypsum is?
Correct.
So you're right here?
Yes.
Okay. And that gypsum, were you out there recently?
Yes.
Is that gypsum
Today.
inside?
They're hauling it fast.
Okay.
They're putting it inside.
Is that consistent with the hours that you would normally do an operation like this, 7 to 5?
It's similar to how we did at the Drexel site. We operated it within that 7 to 5. We prefer longer hours, but we can operate within the parameters you set forward.
And I just, the comment on Drexel's is germane because I didn't get one complaint about that crushing operation.
We're proud of that.
People said I would, I didn't get any. I don't know if you got any.
No, and it's my district, and I heard nothing. I had one neighbor that said, "Oh man, I can't wait till it's over with," but he knew it had to happen.
We construct and set up our plants so they sound cancel each component out. We set up in a certain setup, so one sound kills another sound, and we monitor it with dosimeters all the way around during the crushing operation, and we submit those to the agencies that control us.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Johnson?
Concerning item number 3, just wondering if it would be possible or prudent to put in there something that materials from Drexel Town Square could be hauled down there for crushing as permitted by the DNR.
Materials from Drexel Town Square?
Yes.
Is that going to happen?
My only thought was the lovely buried treasures we keep running into. If they find something out there, they would have a place to dispose of them. It's still going to be a challenge to get them to that site.
What does staff think about that? Not that you're not staff.
Without having the landowner present, without having a representative from Wiz Park present, I'd be hesitant to say one way or another whether or not that would be something that was allowed. And I think that might run into contract issues, if I'm not mistaken, if your contract is very specific about what you're supposed to be doing on site.
Right now, we have a contract for a set amount of material that's located within the ground on the site.
I might negate that request then.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, let's stick with that.
Alderman Bekavich?
I was just going to chime in. Carrie kind of took it away from me. That's kind of contractual. And we do have those services available in the city that we can contact locally to take care of that problem for us. We do have these types of businesses.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else? Motion on 5D.
Come on, somebody.
Bekavich will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the temporary use permit for the temporary concrete crushing operation on the property located at 8850 South Fifth Avenue, subject to the following conditions. 1, that all building and fire codes are met. 2, that the hours of operations be limited to Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. That crushing is limited to the footings and slabs of previously removed buildings on the property. That no material from other properties or work sites shall be brought to the site for crushing. That the temporary use permit shall expire on July 1 of 2015.
Seifert seconds.
Did the woman have a question or no?
She was just curious about the actual location.
Google Earth,
Yeah. You
and there's,
come up to the mic.
Yeah, come on, Mike.
sorry, Marcia Kalamaga, 3952 East American. I was looking on Google Earth because there's that one where they took down that whole building,
Right.
which is right on Fifth Ave. And then so I was just asking him which cement he was taking apart, so he told me which.
Did he answer it?
Yes, he did.
Perfect. Yeah, come on up. We have a motion and a second, but we'll certainly listen to your comments.
Cody Knoblach, 8872 South Fifth Avenue. From my understanding, the company that is here right now is not the company that's making the noise at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, midnight, with the machines running back and forth. It's not the same company, is it?
I think you're referring to the company that's moving the gypsum? Yeah.
Yes.
Which we're all over them. We're trying to get that resolved.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's the only reason I'm here.
yeah.
Okay.
And as long as you're here, thanks for the patience you guys show, because I know you guys put up with a lot.
Well, it's whatever you guys got to do it. It's just, it's a little frustrating when you're sleeping at night and you hear beep, beep, beep all night long. So
You don't have any leads on that backhoe case, do you?
no, you're exactly, you can see right where you guys went in.
Yeah.
So
Well, thanks for the comments.
not a problem.
Appreciate
Thank
it. All right, roll call.
Dick and I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
CDI.
Guzekowski, aye.
Crowell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
All right, moving to 5E is a request, temporary use request, thank you, for an extension to the approved temporary use permit submitted by John Zignago, Zignago Company, Inc., for a temporary concrete batch plant on the property located within the WISDOT right-of-way at I-84 and Rawson Avenue at the exit ramp. Carrie or Pete, applicant is here.
Yes, so the area that we're discussing is in red on your screen. This is an existing temporary concrete batch plant. What's existing now, you can kind of see from this photo what the typical plant looks like. Here's some of the equipment that's out there. The request is to basically close down the existing plant for the winter, restart up in spring, and finish in November. The existing permit expires January 31st, 2015, which is why the applicant is here tonight. There are no changes to the site plan or hours of operation that are proposed with this. The existing hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday from 8 to 5 p.m. There's one new potential WISDOT project that I spoke to one of the companies about, or one of the representatives about, which I may be corrected on right now.
That's correct. Dan Zignago, 1905 North Water Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. John couldn't make it this evening. There are a few projects coming up. Howell Avenue in Oak Creek will be coming up in January, which we are hopefully going to be the successful bidder on. And South 27th Street, another portion of that project, is going to be let in February.
What part of Howell Avenue are you talking about?
That's a very good question. My understanding is it ends at the Milwaukee County line. We have not received the plans yet, but my understanding is that, I'm sorry, the city of Milwaukee limits and goes south from there.
All right, so they stripped and ground the road this year and blacktopped it. So you're talking about curbs being?
I'm guessing this is north of there. Like I said, I haven't seen the plan. I don't know what it is. I'm just aware that it is it's our type of work, so we're currently have plans on order.
All right, so for our purposes, you're asking to mothball the plant for the winter, start up again in spring, same uses as last year.
Yes, our first priority, as I'm sure your package shows, is that we had some significant issues we encountered this year with delays, third-party delays. You don't want the details, but
yeah,
there were a lot of problems.
Got it.
Didn't get as far done as we had to. We had to shut the projects down for the winter. As you can probably tell, 27th Street is not complete. Ryan Road is not complete. So we have to come back in the spring and finish those.
Okay. Dan, is this in your district?
No, it's actually in the first district.
All right. I didn't get any complaints, again, on crushing at that location.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
There's no crushing at this operation. It's a temporary.
Actually, cement
concrete
batch,
plant.
correct. I misspoke. I didn't get any complaints about any noise, truck issues, any of that stuff. So job well done there. So really, you're asking to mothball it and then extend until next year with the same rules and regulations we had this year?
Yes, that's correct.
Commissioner Dickman.
As 27th Street, which is going to be upcoming, out farther from College South, I could see that you'd be coming back in again maybe at the end of next year asking for this, to be extended again. Am I correct? Or would you think you'd be too far away from the action there?
We're not sure if that's a 1-year or a 2-year project.
Let's make it easy. This is not going to be a permanent site for this.
Yeah. Correct.
Because we're, at some point we run out of patience as well. I already lost patience with Howell Avenue this year, and that's still got another whole year to mess
We all
around
did.
So concrete or no concrete. So, I mean, this is going to be it. This is going to be finished up this year, and then you guys can find another location.
It's subject to bid, too, correct? If you get the concrete,
If we are not successful bidders on any more projects, we would have absolutely no more use for this.
All right. But even saying that, because you can keep getting projects, we're not going to have a concrete plant there from now until the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's the reality of it. I just don't want it there. I guess I defer to the commission on this because you're the other 7 people sitting up here, but we're not in the business of having a concrete plant sitting on one of our major interchanges. We understand that there's construction, road construction, and it's required, almost required now, but it's not a long-term use. So I guess that's what I'm telling you.
Okay,
So this is a request for next year.
that is correct.
All right. So that's what's in front of us. Questions or comments?
Agreed.
Mr. Kresick.
The past operation utilized water from the apartment complex to the west.
That's my understanding, yes.
They ran basically a hose line to the west, and I believe that is a city hydrant that they tapped into over there. Now we did make prior arrangements in case of fire suppression needs, where that would be disconnected, we would be able to utilize that hydrant. It also did go across a roadway in that particular apartment complex. You know, early on it was, and we had talked to the complex about notifying us of any concerns from the residents, because it was a significant hose lay over that roadway, and I know you had done some work with some asphalt to try to ramp that up and make it accessible. Going into next year, we would ask the same thing, that we're involved in the planning process with that hydrant, the utilization of that hydrant, and then any access road issues that might come up.
So where does the road that crosses?
It would be the eastern road of the Timber Ridge apartment complex.
Okay.
It's a pain.
So you guys are aware of that. You got to keep the residents happy. We can't have a hose there that's not properly.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Should that be it's a recommendation added, number 6?
In there.
yes, I would say that condition number 2, that any hydrant usage is approved by the water utility and the fire department, and that the applicant coordinate with the fire department for road access.
Okay. I don't want to appear overly harsh, but we ask a lot of our residents. We just talked about it on the lakefront. We've certainly had to deal with it on Ryan, Howell, next year, 27th, actually 2 years, 27th. So that's where it's coming from. I had nothing against your company, or it's just a reality. We're not going to be in the business of having a concrete plant sitting there forever.
Yeah, absolutely. We completely understand and we appreciate, as always, local communities' patience with our operations. We know that we're not the most convenient industry to have around in the world.
But necessary.
Yes.
And actually, again, I heard no complaints, so that's always a good thing. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Johnston.
Just as a reminder, make sure you keep your room available on site next year. Keep the road swept up.
Absolutely.
All right, motion.
Dickman makes a motion, the Plan Commission approve the temporary use permit for the temporary concrete batch plant within the right-of-way at I-94 and Rawson Avenue, subject to the following 5 conditions. Number 1, that all building and fire codes are met. Number 2, that any hydrant usage is approved by the Water Utility and Fire Department and coordinated with the Fire Department for road access. That the use is limited to approved Wisconsin Department of Transportation projects in the area, and that truck traffic is limited to state and county highways. Number 4, that the hours of operation be limited to Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Saturday between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And number 5, that the temporary use shall expire on December 1st of 2015.
Johnston seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Curlo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seipert, aye.
All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Moving to 5F is a rezone and conditional use request by the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility to rezone the properties at 9175 and 9235 South Fifth Avenue and 3975 East American Avenue from B2 Community Business to I1 Institutional with a conditional use for water treatment facility, water storage, and high service distribution pump facilities. tax key numbers as listed.
I will just give a very brief introduction, and then I will turn it right over to Ron Pritzlaff, who is here from the utility to give a presentation to the Plan Commission. Very briefly, it's a rezone request from B2 Community Business to I1 Institutional with a conditional use permit, as the mayor said. CSM is forthcoming to combine the properties that are highlighted in red on the screen with the existing utility property to the south. The project is a water storage and high service distribution pump facility construction project. That's a kind of a general layout, a conceptual layout, and another view of what that might look like. The utility will now provide details of the proposal in this presentation.
And the representative from utilities here, name and address.
Ron Pritzlaff, Oak Creek Water and Sewer, 170 West Drexel. You can go to the next one. Right away. So back in 2008, DNR came to the utility and said, hey, your chlorine contact tank is not within code compliance. Our chlorine contact tank is right here, this big square or the rectangle to the north of the blue there. And for a number of reasons, we can't drain it every 10 years because that provides a vital disinfection for us. That tank has baffle walls and provides a serpentine effect to the water going through it. And it's needed to have that chlorine contact times before it goes out into the distribution system. So we can't drain that for an inspection every 10 years as required by code. It's currently underground, also not up to code. The underground portion of it extends below the groundwater table. That's a portion of it that's also not up to code. So knowing all these things, we agreed with the DNR that we would rectify the situation within 10 years. And that's why I'm standing in front of you today. We went through a pre-design study, fairly lengthy. We considered a bunch of alternatives, 8 of them to be exact. And this is the concept here of what we're going to do. So essentially, we're doing all new pumping, an intermediate pump facility right here. Next to it is a UV facility to provide ultraviolet disinfection. The water will then be pumped to the north to a 100-foot diameter storage tank and into our high-life pumps for distribution into the system. So this would be a portion of it. We currently can serve up to 35 million gallons per day. Ultimate build-out, we're looking at 75 million gallons per day. This would be what I would call a phase 1 to the project. Phase 2 would add a second tank somewhere in this vicinity. So this is, like I said, just phase 1. So that's the idea with rezoning this property here. This general area. It's currently zone B2. We'd like to rezone it to I1 for the purposes of expanding our plant.
Okay. Questions?
No, looks
Have you
good.
talked to legal of whether you should abstain on this one, or are you good? Mr. Seipert is on the Water Commission.
I'd
Utility
probably
Commission.
have to abstain.
Yeah, I think you should.
Might be smart.
This is an isometric view here, excuse me, and it gives you a little bit better idea from an aerial perspective and maybe a little bit better idea of what the buildings will actually look like. The circular tank, like I said, is going to have, it'll have some vertical brick pilaster columns with a horizontal EFIS type situation. It's not complete. This is conceptual, so we do have to work through the entire architectural design phase of that. So at this point, we're just looking to rezone the property so we can get our design process moving.
And this is part of, because I attended one of the last few meetings, this is part of the process to modernize some of the storage.
Exactly, and what'll happen is we don't have any storage at the plant currently. This gives us a lot of flexibility. We've got storage. We can drain that above ground storage to have it inspected, and then we have the UV as a backup to disinfect the water. So there are a number of operational pieces to this that will be improved as well.
Okay. Commissioner Dickman.
I was just looking at the staff report. You're talking about a certified survey map will be submitted. And I think kind of answering my question, this is a long-term, I mean, this is all the ways before it can be built. So we're going to get conditions and restrictions. And the certified survey map then would have to be received before they can start, correct?
Right, and the purpose of the certified survey map is to make all the properties one with the existing property. That allows them some flexibility with the placement of the tank and the pump station as it benefits the way that they need to run the operation. So that's the reason for the CSM. It will be forthcoming following this process.
Okay, and the timing of that then, Pete, would fit into the comprehensive plan update then? We can include that in, right?
Well,
For that section, that little section, we add it in.
Yes, we can certainly make accommodations for making sure the comprehensive plan update reflects this.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion.
Johnston moves that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the properties at 9175 South Fifth Avenue, 9235 South Fifth Avenue, 3975 East American Avenue be rezoned from B2 Community Business to I1 Institutional with the conditional use for water storage and high service distribution pump facilities.
Oh, yeah, come on up.
We don't get to ask questions?
Yeah, you have to come up. Yeah. You can come up.
Come on.
Were you in the middle of your motion?
Yeah.
All right.
That's okay.
Hi, my name is Jacob Piontek. I'm at 3953 East American Avenue,
Okay.
which is the only house right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, like, is there going to be a fence line? When I purchased the property, there was an easement for an alley that I was given, and they said that they're probably never going to build behind me, and that was 3 years ago. So it shows it coming off of Fifth Avenue straight behind, like right along where the bottom is right there. Yeah, all the way out to Fifth Avenue. And they said they weren't really going to build on there, but I only own 8 feet off of like the side of my house on that side. So I just want to make sure that it's not going to look like I'm in prison, because right now they have like 8-foot tall fences with barbed wire, and I don't know if that's going to be like 8 feet off of my house now. Or
Phil, do you have any
when I'm
idea what
building.
that border might look like?
Sure. I mean, there would be obviously some security measures we'd have to take. We were talking about a water treatment facility, but there are certainly some landscaping things we can do, large trees, whatever the case might be, to try and, spruce that up a little bit.
All right, so the utilities indicated that they'd be willing to work with you on how that might look?
That's correct.
yes.
Yeah, okay. That's satisfactory? Come on up.
I just, I heard that they wanted possibly to buy more land and stuff, and I just want to know, before I waste my time working on my house anymore, if I'm just throwing the money away, if they're going to end up taking over that area. I know it's kind of stupid because I'm the only house there, but
It's your house.
yeah, I mean, it's been there since like 1903.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that this was going to happen like this, especially with the progress they're making across the street. Well, now I won't even be able to see that, possibly, depending on what they're going to start building there. And that's what I'm worried about. I was excited about them actually doing something across the street. Now I'm going to have to look at all these water towers around me, and possibly even next to me, depending on what the future
Right.
might have.
I mean, it's a tough situation. Obviously, utilities expand, and in this case,
Yeah.
you have one of the premier water utilities, and they're going to obviously have to keep water quality, water safety paramount. So that's really what this is coming from. Most other utilities have a UV treatment. We don't. Aren't we one of very few that don't?
That's correct. Almost all of the West Shore utilities have UV disinfection installed, or some type of backup disinfection, whether it be membranes, UV, something of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I hear what you're saying. You got the one house that's sitting next to what could be a monolith, and I'm hopeful that. I guess I don't know the site well enough to know that anything you do would block out his view. What do you think?
Are you talking about the view towards the lake? Or
Yeah.
No, I mean, we would, and we've had some discussions with staff on this about doing some nice landscaping in this area. If he's concerned about his view up to the lake, I mean, we can certainly work with him. Right now, I'm not thinking, not much is going to go in this area right here.
Okay.
So,
In the near future, he's not going to be looking at a monolith right next to his house.
No.
Right.
Okay. I think that's.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. All right. Cool. And they've indicated they are willing to work with you on how that border looks.
Absolutely. We're glad to help.
Very cool. All right. Anything else?
Well, yeah.
Come on up.
Hi, it's Marcia again. Okay, so I live across the street from him, so I'm not gonna have to look at some blue ugly thing.
It's going to be brick, I think.
Not gonna be blue.
Or, well, because I already have to look at the water tower.
Well, yeah, you'd have to,
Okay.
you'd have a round circular tank standing approximately 35 feet.
Well, I don't know measurements.
So that's what it would look like from, that's on Fifth
But you can,
Avenue.
but we can, you know, you'll like do trees and make it pretty.
Yes, can we
I'm-
go
I'm
back
so
to?
girly,
No,
you
no
know,
problem.
it's all right.
Can we go back a couple of slides, Carrie?
But like he
Right to
said,
that-
it's not gonna be barbed wire with the whole, you know, like we're in prison.
No, so if you're across the street, you know, right over in, not working.
Here,
There,
got
right
it?
in that,
Ron, is this one better?
yeah, that one will work better. So right in this area here, that's what you're concerned about, right? What you're looking at? So we've got, we'll do some things in this area to make it look nice, as well as down towards the corner. I know Mr. Piontek's concerned about his view looking east, so we've got to,
Well, I have a south view. So I'm looking at their house.
so you're on the other side of the road.
I'm on the other side of the road.
Okay, so let's scroll down. We've got a couple of renderings here. Keep going. So that's what it would look like looking south from American. Now, there's no landscaping in front or anything like that.
But their house is pretty much,
Their house is right about, right in this area.
but their house is pretty much blocking my view, and they have some trees. So it should be all right,
All
unless
right.
if you do some stuff with their house. How is this gonna impact our taxes? Is this gonna make it go up?
No.
That would be a question for the assessor. I could, excuse me.
Come on, Mayor, how is this gonna affect us?
I
You don't know?
I think it'll be negligible.
What?
I don't think it'll impact your taxes.
How is this gonna impact?
Here's what I think is going to happen, and I'm glad
Is
you
this
guys
the-
are here from Fifth Avenue, because I spent a lot of time over there last week. Everything that's happening there is actually going to make your homes worth, I think, more than they are now.
Because my house value has gone down
I know.
a whole heck of a lot.
So you can look at it two ways. One, you're paying less taxes because your house is worth less, but I think you want to.
No, I'm actually, no, my taxes have gone up.
So I think you're going to have a better area to live in. I think your home will be of more value to people in the future. Hopefully, you're going to stick around. So I think all of these things are going to contribute to a better area, because frankly, that area's not looked very good for a long time.
That's true. It's been in my family for generations.
And I love hearing those stories because it shows that people have stuck around. Because I think that that's a part of the city that gets forgotten, but it's actually going to be part of the city that's going to be very, very cool in about 10 years. So.
But I'm not too happy about looking at,
Well, I mean, that's
This
just
whole thing.
part of living next to a big utility is going to be, there's going to be some change there. So
do I get like reduced water? Since I live closer?
you're going to get better water because it's going to be handled better and stored safer.
It's fresher?
You get your water.
It already is fresh.
Is it fresher because I'm closer?
Yeah, well, you are close. Thank you.
And just to add, you know, this would be the high service pump building right here next to the tank, right there. And it's going to look similar to the existing facility. So that's what we're aiming for, brick with the vertical and horizontal cast stone.
All right, let's make it look nice for the neighbors that are over there.
We can absolutely do that.
Not that I'm worried about it, because you guys do a good job with your stuff. Any other questions? Mr. Dickman, anything?
Nope. What do you mean here?
All right. You've been asking a lot of questions tonight. All right, motion.
Here.
Oh, you already got it. Go ahead.
You want me to finish it?
Well, the record will show you started it, so now it'll show you finished it.
Okay. After a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the commission at the next meeting.
Guzekowski will second.
Guzekowski seconds, roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Davich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert abstains.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, so I see two more things. We have 5G is a site and building plan review submitted by David Williams, PPG Industries, for a new cooling tower and associated underground piping located at 10800 South 13th Street, tax key number as listed. Carrie.
The application before you is a request to install 2 new resin cooling towers and associated underground piping on the property. Oh, that didn't really transfer very well, but this is the site plan that was submitted. This will show you where the project area is. Zoom in a little bit more so you can get a better idea. So here's 13th Street right here. This is the proposed location for the new water towers, and this dotted line here is actually the underground infrastructure that would support the cooling towers, which would look more like this. This gives you an idea of where the infrastructure will be located, the underground infrastructure, rather. And we're talking about these cooling towers here. So there are two new cooling towers. This is what they call a fusion cooling tower. I included this graphic just so you can get an idea of what it looks like. It's not a building. It's constructed of what they call structural steel. That's not actually in our list of approved materials, so to be on the safe side, I would recommend that we get a 3/4 majority approval just to cover that. The towers will not be seen from 13th Street due to the layout of the site, as well as some landscaping. The surrounding properties are either owned by the city, the railroad, or they're part of the Oakview Business Park. And then actually to the south is county-owned land. So PPG owns to the north of this site, and then anything surrounding it would be either parkland, city-owned land, or the PUD. All setbacks and height requirements will be met post-construction with these plans. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plan submitted by David Williams of PPG Industries for the property at 10800 South 13th Street with the condition that all building and fire codes are met. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, questions? Commissioner Bekavich.
More of a comment. As far as it not meeting our material list, it's an industrial site. I've worked in the place. I've spent time on it. There's really nothing you could construct this of other than steel. It's very far out of the way. I guess my only questions would concern the fire department. PPG has a great safety record, by the way. They work very well within the community, but I'll turn it over to Mike for anything fire-related on this, because the resin plant's a very complex part of their industry.
If I could just, before you start, Mike, the reason that I included the structural materials is just because it is listed for accessory structures or any kind of structure on a property that they meet the requirements. However, this is not a building, so the 3/4 majority approval for a steel structure is more just it's a cover.
Okay.
It's a cover to make sure that we actually address that and make sure that it is approved, so that everybody is on notice that yes, we know that this isn't a building. It doesn't meet the structural requirements in the code, but that's okay. That's the only reason that was mentioned.
Understood.
Mr. Kresick?
I don't believe there is anybody here from PPG, and I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of them for their construction project, but if it's made out of a certain material, it's probably made out of that material for a reason. Probably isn't a whole lot of play in some of the features of the structures they put up. They have to be the way they are. Certainly, the safety record at PPG, we work very closely with them, and then the resin process is very complicated. Once again, the assumption I will say on those cooling towers is it's to increase capacity and also some of their processes there. So it provides a very important function. As they upgrade components, that certainly is a benefit to the safety of the plant overall. So from that perspective, we will work very closely with PPG on the project. As far as building and fire codes being met, the code requirements are very stringent on that plant, and we'll work very closely with them. So the fire department has no concerns about the integration of this project.
Commissioner Siebert?
No, he answered the questions, so that's a question I was going to ask about the fire department.
Other questions? Motion?
Corral moves that the commission approves the site and building plan submitted by David Williams, PPG Industries, for the property at 10800 South 13th Street, with the condition that all building and fire codes are met.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call?
Dick and I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
All right, H and last, sign plan review for, submitted by Mike McDonald, innovative signs for the multi-tenant building located at 9875 South Stern Street. Tax key number is listed.
Thank you. Yes, this is a sign plan for a multi-tenant building located at 9875 South Stern Street. In your report, I outlined 11 bullet points as to, that would regulate the sign plan for this particular site. Before I go through 2 through 9, the first bullet point and the reason for the sign plan is that the building located here has a new tenant, and the new tenant would like to have 2 wall signs. As by code, you're only allowed 1 wall sign per tenant. The only way that is, one way for it to change is to present a sign plan to the Plan Commission where it is stated in the code that the Plan Commission can allow for end cap tenants to have 2 wall signs. Included in the report are bullets 2 through 9, and the reason these are included as part of the sign plan was this property is located within a PUD, and in the PUD, they outline these points as part of the PUD, and for staff and for the applicant down the road, it'd be nice to be able to have the sign plan all wrapped up, showing all the amendments regarding signs for the site, as well as what we're adding, which is the end cap tenants being allowed to have 2 wall signs. So that's the purpose of the sign plan. Staff recommends approval of the sign plan located at 9875 South Stern Street as presented.
Questions?
Pretty straightforward, yeah.
If none, motion.
Corral moves that the commission approves the proposed sign plan at 9875 South Stern Street as presented.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 7:32.
Corral seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here if you're in the audience, and have a great rest of your week.